What's up, everyone? Casey Bags here, founder and CEO of Nurl, the company making an end-to-end platform for tabletop roleplay game designers that's going to benefit consumers. So that's why we call it end-to-end. It starts with designers, ends with consumers. This is our Build in Public series, episode 7. So this is your first time. Let me tell you what it's all about. So first and foremost, Sanctum is the product that we're going to be focusing on this year and what this series is about. Sanctum is an app for tabletop roleplay game designers to help make design accessible, scalable, and collaborative for our community/industry. This year, we are focusing on the Morkboard community. We are cult members, but most importantly, the Morkboard community is vastly growing with designers because the system is so extendable and so perfect. Thank you, Pele. That it's just spawning so many different games, like thousands at this point. You can't even keep up. So it's the perfect starting point. So we're going to release to our early adopters, hopefully at the end of this month. The app will not be finished, but we'll be very close. Our early adopter pool is full. It's full if you're in the Morkboard community. Every heavy-hitting designer you know is within our Sanctum early adopter group, more than likely. Our beta group is twice as large as our early adopter group, and it's full of also heavy-hitting Morkboard designers. So I'm proud to say that as a cult member, we have a very strong support from the beginning from the Morkboard design community. So we'll release to the beta users a little later, and then ideally to the public next year. This is a one-shot video. I don't edit these. What you see is what you get. We're going to look at the features that I just finished building within the last week. We haven't done one of these in a while because I've been in Switzerland for like 2 weeks, basically. I almost got trapped there because our planes kept canceling on the way home. I would have totally been fine with that. Danke cheers. Anyways, and then I had to go out of town again for more work business. So I'm finally back on the board, on the grind, and this is what we're going to do. We're doing all the cool stuff now. So apologize for the noise in the background. We got the boys playing Banksy and Rigsby, and they're causing chaos, of course, in the one-shot video. Okay, so let's talk about what we accomplished. So we're going to hop in. For those of you, if this is your first time, when you sign up for Sanctum, you're immediately created into an organization. Each organization has permissions down to like people you can add, all the way to like the content that you have. We have repositories. Repositories hold files. If you're familiar with any Adobe product or Affinity, it's the same type of system. So today we're going to be looking at our open source file. Notice it's public. So from the beginning, Nurl Sanctum is promoting and encouraging open source game development. This means anybody can see this content, and the file is private. This means only we can see it. I just created it. So that's the default. You could tell because it's an untitled system. So we could edit this later. But within our repositories, we have branches that keep track of your history magically. You don't have to worry about that. And we have different file types. So today we have 2 files. Canvas, that's your brainstorming file. If you want to create a new game, this is a file that walks you through a thinking framework that we created to help you kind of form the concept even more and understand if it's viable and even feasible for what you want to do and what you can afford. I love the Canvas file. I think it's so valuable. However, if you're creating free content, you don't have to use it. You don't even have to use the Canvas file at all. I would recommend it though. Then we have the system file. This is for core mechanic systems. This is where we're focusing today and in the next few episodes. This is a core system, This is not a core rulebook or adventure or supplemental material. You can see we will provide files that will have unique features for designing those materials in the future. You could think of those other files probably being more text-based, whereas this is very Lego block. I like to think of your system file as your Lego factory. So I'm going to go into there just for the sake of future stuff. I'm just going to put like demo system. This is a demo. I can spell, and I'm going to make this public where everyone can see it. I'm going to save that. We get the update, everything's automatic. So now, in the future, we'll have a consistent public file. Okay, so we never had access to this dice view before. Now we do. In most systems, you have your core resolution is usually through a set of dice. So we support that. Now, keeping in mind, outside of the Morkborg world, there are some games that use cards for your resolution system. We won't support that out of the bat. However, the system is designed for us to scale to supporting that when that time comes and we can focus on it. So we're within our dice workshop now, which is what we're calling this area. And typically, in order for us to do cool things within the system file, we need to register our dice set or add them. So we don't have one here, so we're going to add, and we immediately get this sidebar that has two very cool options. The first one is if you want to create a single die, which you may or may not want to. And you'll notice there aren't that many options here. We have a name, a notation, and a description. And I want to just make sure that this is very clear. This space here is hiding a lot of other low-level options that we're going to support in the future. So theoretically, if you have a game like Shiver that has a custom dice spaces, you'll be able to do that in Sanctum and create your own custom dice set. However, I want to draw your attention to choosing a popular set. So right now we just have the standard polyhedral set. It shows all D20s here. This is something that will change in the future. Right now I'm struggling to find an elegant dice icon set. Everyone just has D20s. We have a D20 that looks nice, but once it gets to like D6, D4, especially the D8 for some reason, it's just not elegant. It doesn't look good. So, man, if you know something, please let me know. So, in the future, once we support file importing, we'll be able to click this and it will immediately add all of our dice within one click. We don't have to do this. We don't have that hooked up now. That hopefully will be next week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat and go to our dice templates repository. And this is exactly how Nurl is creating these templates for us to use. So next week, we'll dive into this deeper. But I mean, this is what's really cool about Sanctum as a teaser. So we have our polyhedral set file. I'm going to click in here. It's the same thing because it's a system file. I'm going to go to dice, and now we can see that we have our entire set of the standard, everything from D4 to a D100. It's pretty common. And we have the ability to add more dice if we wanted to, just get wild, but we're not going to. And if we wanted to remove this set, we'll call out that we're going to have the ability, because we are going to keep track with file importing, that if another file, like say this was the Morkborg system file, whether Pele or Johan was the owner of it. And of course, they have thousands of other people using their system. So in theory, they would have imported the Morkborg system file into their project, which will inherit all of this stuff naturally, including the license with it. So with that, if you're familiar with game design, normally from a legality purpose, the old way is systems normally have an SRD like file legal document associated with them. That's only if you can afford lawyers and want to take the time for that. Morkborg does not have an SRD associated with it. So, within this world of Sanctum, Sanctum becomes your SRD because we're keeping all these low-level Lego blocks, you could say, of the system, and you control the permissions of them. That means that when people import the system file, they also import the legality of what they can and can't do within that system file. That's what I mean by Sanctum becomes the SRD. The SRD is no longer relevant in the world because Sanctum is now the SRD. So let's pretend that this was the Morkborg system file, and we have thousands of other people importing it. Now, let's say if Pele wanted to get wild and it's like, I'm feeling chaotic, I'm just going to delete this dice set and start over. We have a nice warning being like, hey, so many people are using this, they're going to be impacted by this change. So I could be like, psych, just kidding. But also within the file importing history, let's say someone does do that, you're going to get a choice, theoretically, to opt into that new change where we can hopefully show you what has changed. So we would say version 2 removes the dice set, and you could be like, I don't need that. I'm just going to stay on this old version. Okay, so we have the dice set. That was a lot. But there's nothing really interesting about this. This is just registering your set. Where the magic happens is in this analysis tab. Now, we don't have a lot here yet because this in general was about a week's worth of work. This is where you're going to have all types of interactive analysis tools for your dice. This is so important because we don't really have this right now within the industry. You can do super math stuff if you're really fluent in math, but not a lot of designers are. I'm not really thinking about dice on this level. So if you create custom sets, this is very important. So imagine down here like an interactive like success chart or like a difficulty where you can kind of play around with each thing. But out the gate, you can see we have 1d4 selected. So we're immediately at a super high level where we'll fine tune, probably make this look a little better. In this overview section, we're giving you a roll guide, showing you the average result of that roll with the tooltip that's helpful, expected result over many rolls, and how swingy is it, how predictable. So by nature, the smaller number of dice faces it has, the less predictable it is. It's backwards. The more dice it has, the more volatile it just becomes chaotic. But the D4 is swingy. So if we go to a D44, it becomes more stable because we're adding more dice to that pool. So these are our pool options. This becomes really valuable. We'll come back to this later, but we're also telling you a difficulty guide at a high level, showing that an easy, medium, hard, very hard roll, what those look like, so you can kind of adjust your system and your difficulty test accordingly based on the dice. So let's look at how the D4 has 75% chance, 50, 50, 25. This is where we get into more cool stuff. If we go to a D20, those percentages changes because the sides on the dice change and the shape of the dice changes. So it's more sides, so it becomes wildly unpredictable in what the result will be. The average result is still half. It's going to be like that for a single dice. With single dice, you have a flat chart. It's not really that interesting. But now you can see how important this dynamic resolution is, keeping in mind this math is always going to be in progress. We're always going to be fine-tuning. But let's talk about where things get interesting. Some games use dice pools, which are typically a d6. And we can see that it's kind of swingy. There's nothing really interesting here. But let's go to a 6d6 dice pool. Now we see things change in a very interesting way because the average result's 21. That's pretty typical because it's exactly what we would think. But now we're becoming very predictable in what the outcomes are going to be. So now we can kind of see why more and more systems are moving to a D6 dice pool because you can kind of control the outcome a little more. But the percentages do change. So very hard turns to a 0% chance because it's very predictable, and you're going to have a high average result. So uh, the the math behind it just kind of shows like this absolutely creates a bell curve on its predictability. Now you might see we stop at D6 and we jump to a D10, and you might be like, why in the world would you support a D10 dice pool? Well, one of our early adopters, this is the benefit of early adopters, is they get direct access and influence in the platform. We want to make sure that we're solving their problems first and foremost. We have a designer within the Morkboard community. You may know him. His name is John Baltusberger, who's created his own system called the Badass System. And this system is so badass, it uses a 10D. It could go up to a 10D6 dice pool. So we're going to make sure he's supported out of the bat and he can have access to these tools and kind of judge from here. So if you're a designer and there's some more information at the high level that you would like to see in this overview section, please drop a comment. Let me know. Hit me up on Discord. I'm that Nurl dude in pretty much any server. Or Casey Bax. So that's it for this week. This is not a lot, but it is a lot at the same time because math is hard. The fact that we have to support so many dice sets and systems is very hard. And this is just going to get more and more interesting. Within this analysis tab, we're just going to keep adding more and more tools. So if you love playing around with dice and seeing how they affect your games, you're going to love this area of your system file. So that's it today. And that's it this week. Thanks for hanging in there. This is a longer one. I've ranted a lot, but we're doing some cool stuff and we're getting there. So thank you so much. See you next time. Bye bye.